All right, so I've time-lapsed a little forward here, and what I've done is I corrected a little bit of the lighting on our head. I've merged, um, or rather, I've grouped all of the eyes together in a folder. I added this little antenna topper here that we're going to use in a minute. I created a shape here for our arms. I created our body. I've got our legs here. I'm going to actually make the leg just a little bit smaller for our purposes here today. And then you might notice that what I've done with this little heart panel here, I haven't added the art yet, but the heart yet. But you'll notice that I actually just used the eye parts here. And if I transform this down a little bit, I can make it look a little bit more distinct than some of the other stuff. This claw end here, we'll have two of these, but first, let's just make one. So the reason that we've only done, one side of the body here is because actually we're just going to sort of duplicate this body and kind of flip it over to the other side, right? So, but in order to do that, in order to get this effect here, I mean, there's a couple of things that I could do to get these details in. One thing is I could select the leg, create a new layer above it, go over to my brush, maybe select, AAA drawer, zoom way in, and then just draw each one of these lines in here. And that might work out okay. But there is another way that we could approach this that might be worth our time to explore right now, and that would just be to make a custom brush. So to do that, I would go to File, New. I would maybe make one that's 512 by 512. Okay. So what do I want to do? Let's go to a new layer. Let's make our brush nice and large here, and I'm just going to stamp it once in the middle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an eraser tool. Actually, let's not even do that. We don't need to erase anything, right? We can just take this. Let's, we don't want this to be exactly circular, right? We want it to be more like this. So what we could do is something like this, and then just Alt-Shift-Drag to make a second one here, just like this, and we'll Control-Click, and then go back to layer 1, hit Delete, and that might work. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to turn this into a custom brush, so we go File, and Edit, Define Brush Preset. Okay. And remember, if we come back to this, none of this is going to work quite right. So what we need to do is go into our brush settings. We need to change our spacing. We need to change our shape dynamics. We'll turn it into pen pressure, and we'll go into just above roundness jitter here. We'll go into direction. So we should be able to, oh, actually, let's turn direction off. I think that might have been a mistake. All right, let's try this. Ah, yeah, there we go. Cool. Okay, so I can just go over to my leg, Control-Click. Let's bring that brush right down to size, and I can just draw all of that on there. If I've got these little artifacts, all I'm doing is taking my eraser tool. Oops. Oh, did I do that on the wrong layer? I sure did. Yeah, make sure you're on the right layer. There we go. Ah, that worked even better. Now, if that looks like a little dark, right, you can always change the opacity of that, or you can change how it applies. This is called layer blending, and what you can see here is that it will apply your layer a little bit differently depending on what you choose, right? So All of this stuff will darken everything. All of this stuff will lighten everything in different ways. This will change the contrast, and this will change things like color. In this particular case, we'll probably just leave it as normal. And then let's see if we can figure out something for our arms. So in this case, it looks like the shape is about right, but it's going the wrong way. So I'm going to actually go up into my tools here, and I'm going to turn this. Just a little bit. And then let's go into the arm, control click, make a new layer above. Let's size this up a little bit, just a little bit. Right. And it's looking kind of, maybe we can stop it a little earlier. And actually, let's increase the spacing just a little bit. Yeah, you might need to try a few times until you get something that you like. Spacing isn't quite right. Yeah, maybe just something like that is fine. Again, we'll lower the opacity a little bit. Cool. So then I've got this little grip here. What I'm going to do is Alt, and just drag that over. I'm going to do Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And then I have my claw. If I click on this and I do Control T, I can maybe change the direction of it a little bit, and that'll sort of change the interplay over here. Okay, let's say this is fine, and I want to use this as my arm. I will click, 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 and then new folder, and that should be arm. And I can verify that by turning it off and on. Very good. We've got our leg here. Same thing, make a new folder, leg. Right, so for the arm, I'm just going to turn off auto select, make sure I'm on the arm layer, Alt and drag, Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. I've got my second arm. I can do the same thing with my leg here. With auto select off, I can Alt drag, Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. Yeah, now I've got 2 arms and 2 legs. Right? Now, if I don't like any of the aspects of this, I can, with everything on layers, I can always go back and change things. All right, let's go behind the body, but before we get to our head, and I'm just going to use the polygonal lasso tool to create an antenna. And then I'm going to use my brush. We'll go back to AAA drawer. And we'll just fill that in. And we'll just keep that flat for now. And I can move that around to wherever I want, maybe more off to the side. Remember to turn your auto select back on if you want to move things around. So click, click. And we can give them a little unicorn antenna, that's fine. Right? Oh, and we need to put our heart in here too, don't we? So let's make a new layer. And let's grab a paintbrush. For this one, I'm going to select 01 Storybook pen, which is kind of a hard ink pen with a little bit of character to it. So Just going to draw the little heart in here. Again, don't forget, if you want, you can use symmetry. Shift drag to open that up. Get it right in the middle. Select your brush. Maybe something like that. And then turn your symmetry off. You can just sort of close the end manually. Erase the parts that you don't want. There we go. And what I'm going to do is duplicate that, size it down so it looks more like that. I'm going to merge those two layers together, Control E to merge them in, and I'm going to set a little glow on that as well. So I'm just going to do outer glow, and again for now we're going to leave color out of this. We'll just set it to sort of a light gray. Yeah, sure, okay. I've decided I don't like this antenna black. I think it's a little too much for the top of the head. So I'm going to click on that, Control, click into that box, and let's just make this more, a little bit more gray. Remember, the light is coming sort of from the front, so I'm going to actually move, get a new layer here, do that, and that should mimic the light. If I go to my 20% eraser, I can make something that looks a little bit better, and of course I can move my lighting around, or Control T to transform it and get it just where I want it. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. All right, again, not perfect, but not too bad either. Everything's sort of facing forward here. I might consider moving a leg a little bit just to make it look like he's walking or something weirdly. There we go. If I want to make this leg look like it's coming forward, I might size it up just a little bit. Now he's got a weird robo walk going on. All right, cool. So I think I'm okay with this character generally. How might I go about coloring this guy in? Well, the way that you would do that is you would use that you would use layer blending. So what I would recommend doing, first of all, make sure that you save your work anytime you get to a point where you're kind of happy with what you have. The next thing that I would do, I would recommend grab everything here, put it in a new folder. We'll call it layers. And duplicate that. Try not to work on your originals. And make sure you're grabbing it and pulling it to new layer, and that duplicates the entire set. Great. So one of the things that we have here, right, is we have all of these body parts. So then again, because you can select them, it makes them into sort of selection tools. So one thing that you can do is kind of go outside of our layers here, make a new layer. Let's set this one to overlay, and let's get our airbrush ready. And what we're going to do is we're just going to select, let's see, let's give him kind of a bluish body, or a bluish head to start off with. right? So I'm just going to airbrush that head. And you'll notice when it's set to overlay, it just automatically kind of creates that bluish contrast. And if you want to add in a little bit more visual interest, right, you can change the tint on this a little bit, right? So as things get more toward the light, they maybe become a little bit more green. Or if you have some backlight, you might want to add in some purple, give it a little bit of color pop back there. Why start with black and white and move to color instead of just going color right from the beginning? Well, I think one of the reasons is that, again, this gives you a little bit more freedom to focus. You can focus on your lighting and decide whether your lighting looks right or not. You're not going to be going, ooh, I don't know how I feel about these colors, because the colors can always be adjusted. Values can't always be adjusted, right? Okay, so maybe I like that color for the head. How about the eyes? Now I can go back in and I can auto select. If I go into our eyes here, control click, here's my eye. Now I can maybe check the outer glow and maybe see if I want to do something bluish or something like that. That might work. Yeah, that looks good. Let's go to our other eye here. Again, if you have things named, it will be a little easier than it is for me right now. This is a little bit messy. Okay, outer glow. Might have to move this box around so you can see what what you're doing. Yeah, looks about right. Okay. Yeah, cool. Now he's got glowing eyes. If you want, you can go into these eyes here, go into the interiors and give them a little bit of a bluish hue. Just alt select that, make a new layer, do something like that. And remember, you can also, if you turn off auto select, alt drag, and now you've got the same thing for both eyes. Same thing here. I can go down to my heart and I can change my color overlay. I will change it to red, and we'll give the heart design a nice pink hue to it. Color overlay, let's make it kind of a bright pink, and let's do an outer glow, and we'll do kind of a purplish red, something like that. If you don't like how the glow is being applied, don't forget you have the same sorts of options right here under your blend modes as you do for your layers, right? Yeah, this is the sort of thing that you would do, right? You grab the arms. Maybe you want to grab those same colors that you had in the head. Don't forget, if you turn your overlay to normal, you can get what those colors are exactly. If you want, you can just take that off to the side, grab a maybe a rectangle tool here, delete, and now you have actually all of the regular colors just as they are. Set that back to overlay, go back to this guy, control click on the arm, grab your paintbrush, grab a blue, add it on there, set it to overlay. Oops, make sure you're on the right layer. Always make sure you're on the right layer. Let's go just below our claws here, and we'll set it to overlay. Cool. Same thing over here. Make a new layer just below the claws. Set it to overlay. Go to our body, click that, new layer. Set it to overlay. If you want to get some of that purple color in there, you can do that too. All right, you might have to play around with the colors just a little bit to get them to work together just right. But that would be the general gist of how you would color this guy in, one section at a time. And if there's a section that you want to, you want to make it stand out a little bit more, you can always go to Image, Adjust on the layer, on the color, and then go to Hue, Saturation, and you can just drag right through your hues and see, go, oh, maybe I should try it with the orange and see if that looks a little bit better, right? But the idea generally is that that's how you would go through this entire image and color him in, and then when you are done, you basically put everything together. Let's make a copy here. Control E, and now you have your robot. And remember, he's the wrong size, so if you Control T, you can transform him and make him a lot smaller. If you do that, though, when you blow him up, you'll notice you're going to start to get, some pixelation. I don't know if you can see that with my screen cap. So if you aren't sure about the size, what I'd recommend doing is left click on here, go to Convert to a Smart Object, Control T, and back them up. That will preserve in the computer basically the size that he is. So in the end, you're going to want 3 of these guys. They're going to need to all be colored top to bottom. Try different things out. Try different tools out and see how they work. See what you like and what you don't. These are meant to be, simple. They're meant to look simple. This shouldn't be too hard or too crazy. It should just be fun, little, visually interesting characters. Right. This is, by the way, I just applied a hard light. This is what the colors look like normally, but if I apply it as hard light, I get this nice, beautiful contrast, and everything has a nice kind of unified color to it, right? So once you're done with one, do 2 more. And when you're done with all of them, make sure that you put some area shadows under them. Again, never jet black necessarily, but just go underneath them here and add in an area shadow. And remember, just an area shadow is just a very generalized shadow. It's not meant to look completely and utterly realistic. It's meant to be very, very simplistic. So that would be about all you would need to do. If you felt compelled to do it, you could put a little area shadow behind them as well. Make them stick out from the page that much more. If you want to add in special effects or something to these guys, you can do that too, but that's not necessary. All right, and that's the first project. So again, yeah, you've got this one. Okay, cool. Do a couple more. And by the way, again, this is just meant to show you what I can do with my with the characters that I created. So don't make a robot just like this. Work on your thing and use the techniques that I showed you in this to build your own little form characters. And yeah, have fun with it. Thanks for your attention.